What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're going to break down everything that we currently know about gameplay updates coming to Destiny 2 in Season 18. While the core content and theme for the season remains a mystery, we do have quite a bit of detail about weapon changes, adjustments to exotics and Sandbox. Plus Bungie have outlined loot system updates and vendor changes, ritual adjustments as well as changes to PvP modes like Iron Banner, and there are a bunch of other things to cover as well. So we're going to break down everything that we know about gameplay changes for the new season, and I hope you enjoy the video. But before we get into it guys, you may have heard about the mightiest game that you can fit in your pocket, and it's Raid Shadow Legends, which is available to play for free right now on all mobile devices and PC. It comes with over 600 awesome champions with unique skills, factions, and a ton of artifacts to customize your characters with millions of possible combinations, whether you want to tackle raid bosses, champion battles, dungeons, or PvP arenas. If you scan my QR code on screen, you can download Raid yourself to check out some of the neat features. Personally, I love the different factions in the game, and one of my favorites is the High Elves. And their homeland Aravia stood for thousands of years, but eventually fell into a war with Siroth, the Lord of Darkness, and some rogue elves, who nearly destroyed their civilization. They're a battle-hardened faction, and some of their champions, like Ithos, are really awesome. On top of this, Raid gets loads of live updates, and this month they have special events and modes, including the new Forge Pass, which is packed with special rewards and limited edition artifacts, as well as champions and skins. Plus later this month, Raid is updating their Death Knight champion to Legendary with some pretty big buffs. So there's never been a better time to get a huge head start, and players can use my link or scan the QR code on screen to get a free starter pack worth almost $30, as well as a free champion called Aina, and all of this awesome loot on screen, which will appear in your in-game inbox for 30 days. So to get the download, hit the link below, and thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring the video. Now though, as we get into the content discussion for Season 18, one of the first things worth mentioning is the new raid that we're going to see. And as Bungie outlined, this will be a reprise raid from Destiny 1. All speculation about this specific raid aside, they have outlined that the raid will go live at 10 AM Pacific on August 26th. And of course, the launch date for Season 18 will be August 23rd, immediately following the Destiny 2 showcase, which is expected to outline the next expansion for Destiny, as well as some of the content that we're going to see between now and then. Back to the new raid though, it will go live at 10 AM Pacific on August 26th, and as always, contest mode will be enabled for 24 hours, so Bungie have said we'll need to be at 1560 power to be at the cap for all encounters. And they add that clearing the raid with the contest mode active will be the first step to access the new challenge mode in the Director, which includes a special triumph for completing all of the challenge triumphs for each encounter. And so the team that gets world first will need to complete that secret triumph. Then after the 24-hour period, contest mode will be taken off. And otherwise for now, those are all the details we have about the upcoming raid. The other major Sandbox element that we're going to see will be Arc 3.0. And again, Bungie haven't given a massive amount of detail about what we can expect to see in this rework, but they'll be moving the Arc subclasses to the same system that we've seen for Stasis, Void, and Solar. So on top of those adjustments, of course, we will get the new seasonal artifact, with additional mods and bonuses to interact with Arc 3.0. We'll touch on more Sandbox stuff in a moment, including weapon changes, but for some other system updates to the game, and for vendors, Bungie have outlined that Banshee's reputation is going to be adjusted, and starting in Season 18, completing daily gunsmith bounties will grant 50 rep, which is up from 25. And they say that more impactfully for players, gunsmith reputation gained from dismantling legendary or exotic weapons and armor will be increased to 5 each, up from 3. And so over a period of time, of course, that's going to help us gain reputation much faster. That leads us on to adjustments to loot, and there are some things to bear in mind, including weapons that are going to be removed from specific loot pools, and so, from the Iron Banner, we'll no longer be able to earn the Peace Bond sidearm or Archon's Thunder machine gun. For Nightfalls, the Plug 1 fusion rifle and Hothead rocket launcher will be removed from rotations, and finally for Trials of Osiris, the Eye of Sol, plus the Summoner auto rifle, will be cycled out of the loot pool to make way for new weapons. On top of weapons being removed and added from playlists though, Bungie have outlined that we'll see weapon foundries receive additions each season, as well as new origin traits for the season overall, seasonal events, and the upcoming reprised raid will get origin traits as well. Now let's mention some of the Sandbox tuning that Bungie have outlined for weapons and armor. As always, going into a new season, we will see quite a few changes. And so things to note are that Bungie are adjusting the issue that caused too much heavy ammo to drop when running double special weapons. And other global changes include that several weapon stats that were previously hidden have now been made visible on the weapon inspection screen, and that includes airborne effectiveness, recoil direction, zoom, and aim assist. so more of those stats visible in game will be good. But Bungie also have various weapon archetypes that they're buffing, and so they'll be increasing the damage of all scout rifles versus minor enemies in PvE by 10%, and this is on top of the damage buff that we saw in the Solstice balance patch a few weeks ago. Plus, for high impact 360 RPM auto rifles, they're increasing the base stability stat of all non-sunset autos by 6 to 12 depending on the weapon. And for lightweight bows, they're reducing the base draw time by 5% and increasing the perfect draw window, which is the period of time that you have when you're drawing a bow before it begins to lose accuracy and damage. And so that's going from 0.35 to 0.50 seconds on the low end and 0.55 to 0.80 seconds on the high end. Hopefully that'll make lightweight bows a bit more appealing. They're also fixing the problem with Dire Promise's zoom stat, and for glaives, they say interactions with some exotic armor pieces can be confusing, so melee attacks from glaives will now activate on exotic armor perks from ACDO Feedback Fence, Karnstein Armlets, and Necrotic Grip. Gonna be some fun new builds there potentially. Then here they say that concussion grenades will no longer be able to roll in the magazine slot of breach grenade launchers, and for heavy grenade launchers they don't see a lot of use in PvE, so they're increasing damage versus mages and above by 10%, with the exception of Parasite, which they point out does not need to do more damage. Plus, as promised, Bungie have added anti-champion functionality to several exotic weapons, and so Le Monarch will get intrinsic overload. That'll apply to poison arrows. Thunderlord will also get intrinsic overload, and then Malfeasance explosions will have intrinsic unstoppable, as well as plus 25 points to the base airborne effectiveness stat of the weapon. And Wishender gets intrinsic anti-barrier, with an increase to the number of hits versus most targets from 2 to 3, and they've increased damage versus champions, mages, and mini-bosses by 10%, with a very minor decrease to draw time. They also point out that Tiku's Divination will get a small buff from the lightweight global changes. And then Legend of Acreus Catalyst has been updated to grant Trench Barrel. That'll be on top of the other original effects. And there's an increase in airborne effectiveness from 23 to 28 on the Callus Mini-Tool, which helps it to match the Mida Mini-Tool. Then the Mini-Tool itself is getting increased zoom from 13 to 14, and Drang Baroque will also see increased airborne effectiveness from 21 to 23. The same for Sweet Business, moving from 27 points to 32 points. And finally for Fighting Lion, it's going to see its damage buff reintroduced, increasing from 5% to 8% bonus, and they're increasing the grace time for the instant reload effect of Thin the Herd from 5 to 6 seconds. Bungie finish on the weapon front though with reworks to exotic weapons, and for Lord of Wolves, they're decreasing starting ammo in PvP from 15 to 10, with PvE being unchanged, as well as reducing the burst size from 10 to 5 shots when Release the Wolves is active. They've also reduced the burst delay and decreased Lord of Wolves base damage by 20%, but bear in mind that's affecting PvP, and they have increased damage in PvE by 20% to compensate. On top of this, Bungie are changing the cranial spikes effects on Deadman's Tail, and it will no longer buff damage versus players, but instead will grant increased reload, aim assist, and range per stack. They point out that it will still grant additional damage versus PvE combatants, and upon reaching max stacks of Cranial Spike, the Catalyst will now increase hipfire RPM by 50, but will deal reduced damage per bullet. Final weapon change we have right here is for Collective Obligation, which is seeing quite a few little buffs, so they're increasing the Void Leech timer to 15 seconds in PvE activities. They're also removing the cooldown on that, and they've added a 20% damage bonus against PvE combatants only while Void Leech is active. Then it will also take less hits to fully charge Void Leech. Kills against debuffed targets will instantly charge it as well, and they fixed the bug where Umbral Sustenance was activating with non-void overshields. So quite a few weapon things to think about right there, and let us know which ones you'll be looking forward to using. The only other specific exotic armor piece that they've outlined changes for is Omnioculus though, where they're reducing the effectiveness of damage resistance when paired with Whisper of Chains in PvP, and they point out that PvE damage is unchanged. So tier 1 will be 10% to 2.5% bonus, tier 2 goes from 15 to 5, tier 3 from 20 to 7.5, and tier 4 from 25% to 10%. And that's certainly going to affect how that performs in PvP. So on the Sandbox front, once again, be sure to give us your thoughts in the comments section below. Up next though, let's round out some changes that we're going to see to the Iron Banner. Of course, in Season 17, Bungie added the Iron Banner title, And starting in Season 18, we'll get the ability to gild that Iron Lord seal. An Iron Banner will feature a new mode for the season as well, which is called Eruption, which Bungie describe as clash with energy boosts based on kill streaks. And inside of this mode, when we get our second elimination in a row without dying, which includes assists, we'll enter a new state called Surging, and this causes players to glow lightly, and while in that state, kills will generate 10% super energy and 20% grenade, melee, and class energy. We'll also score 3 points per kill, but following that, when we get to our 5th kill without dying, we'll become primed. And in this state, players begin glowing brightly, and everyone on the team gains 5% super and 10% grenade, melee, and class energy. But for the player who's primed, they'll get 12% super and 5% grenade, melee, and class energy per kill. And so going on kill streaks will offer you a pretty significant advantage, and we'll have to see what kind of effect that has on the mode and how it's received. But being primed does have some disadvantages, including a 15-second timer, and when that timer reaches 0, you erupt, which kills you. However, getting a kill will reset the eruption timer back to 15 seconds, so it pretty much demands at least 1 kill every 15 seconds in order to stay alive. Then on top of this, you'll be marked for both teams, and so your enemies will know exactly where you are. Plus the enemy team will get bonus points for taking you out, and more than one player will be able to be primed at a given time. So if you have any thoughts about that mode, let us know down below. And otherwise, Bungie have spoken about how Rift will be affected by the new season. And instead of permanently being available in standard Crucible playlists, they're making it available to play during week 1, 8, and 14, as well as being available in private matches. They add that for Season 18, AFK protections have been updated to utilize Rift-specific events. So Rift will stick around in Season 18 with some minor changes, but Bungie say they want to look at ideas around 3v3 Rift, fixing scenarios where one team can keep the spark longer than intended, and importantly reducing the black screen timers. So Bungie very much see a future for Rift still, and I think with more significant changes it could be a more popular mode again in future. Give us your thoughts below. But the final thing to bear in mind for Control, and Bungie have said that skill-based matchmaking will be implemented into Control at the start of Season 18. It won't affect any other modes initially. Of course, they haven't given specifics on how that skill-based matchmaking will work or any of the kind of parameters around it, but they say they will be live tuning those parameters, and overall the goal is to try and improve the Crucible experience in general. It's difficult to speculate on that kind of change and how it's going to play, but we'll definitely get a pretty good idea after the first couple of weeks of the new season, and Bungie have promised adjustments where there are issues. So feel free to give us your thoughts about that. And otherwise, guys, for now, that's pretty much everything that we know about Season 18 and what we can expect to see. On August 23rd, of course, we'll get a big reveal, so a lot of the kind of tantalizing info for the new season will be shown off pretty immediately before it actually goes live. So I figured a recap on all of these adjustments would be useful. So if you have enjoyed the video, a like rating down below really does help us out. Also feel free to get subscribed and I'll keep you posted with more Destiny 2 content. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.